Hello, and welcome to Dead of Night Halloween Productions. For our first tutorial, we're going to show you how to build a modular mausoleum. Materials that you'll need for this build are 8 sheets of 1-inch 4x8 open cell foam board insulation, a water spray bottle, a heat gun, a hot knife, a black Sharpie marker, a chalk box, a meter stick, and a small knife or flathead screwdriver. The first thing that we're going to do is start with carving the bricks into our foam. Now we decided to go with an open cell foam. The sheets are 4 feet by 8 feet, 1 inch thick, open cell foam. You can get them for about $8 at Home Depot. If you want to go with something a little bit better to carve, you can go with polystyrene. That's an option that most people decide to go with. The problem with it is that it's way more expensive. It's more like $16 a sheet as compared to the $8 a sheet. It's basically double the price. And we found that carving with the open cell foam was actually pretty easy to do. So we decided to go with this, and we're going to show you how we did this. You can do this on polystyrene if you want to. We choose to go with open cell. The first thing that you're going to want to do when designing your mausoleum is take a look at some pictures on Google and decide what you want the architecture of your mausoleum to look like. We kind of looked at a bunch of different pictures, took kind of the things that we want, some stonework, some brickwork, some windows, and went into Photoshop and drew a very crude drawing of how it's going to look. Now, in order to give you a better representation or better visual of how this is going to look, we also built a 3D model of the drawings that we did so you can kind of see it from all sides. This is the basic idea of what we want our mausoleum to look like. As you can see, it's going to have a rusted steel door on the front, some little light holders made out of brick on the front. It's going to be very beat up, very weathered. The sign, the family crest and everything will be on there. The broken window on the side. We decided to put a window in ours because later we'd like to do a Pepper's Ghost effect where an actual hologram shows up in there, but that'll come in a later tutorial. Right now we are just going to look at how to carve your open cell foam into bricks. So let's get started. Here we have our layer of open cell foam, and you can see if I get a little bit closer, there's a bit of a sheen in the light on this, and that's because this has a thin layer of plastic covering the whole thing. We have to make sure we get rid of all of that, because if we don't, when we go to paint this, the paint's not going to adhere to it and it's just going to mess up our whole carving. So what we're going to do is you take a small screwdriver, just like this, start at the edges, peel this up a little bit. You can see it can get under there pretty easy. And then just start tearing this off. It's going to come off in pieces. You're going to get some big chunks. Most of them are going to be little. It's a little bit time intensive, but it's absolutely something you want to do. Here you can see that some of the plastic is ripped off a little bit. It comes off and makes these little jagged edges, which can be kind of hard to get to. So what you're going to want to do is you take your little screwdriver, stick it underneath the jagged edge, gouge it into the foam a little bit, and then just pull it out. Now, if you're trying to make it like some pristine bricks and everything, then this is not the method that you want to use. But for us, because we're making like kind of a broken down mausoleum, this is fine because we're going to scar this up and make the bricks look old anyway. So if you gouge the foam, it's not a big deal. Just make sure that you don't go all the way through. Do this around the entire thing and make sure you get all the plastic off. Okay. So now that we've taken all the plastic sheeting off the front of the foam, now we want to measure where our bricks are actually going to be. Now, when I first did this, and you can see in some of the pictures, I tried to draw the lines going all the way across with a Sharpie, and we're trying to measure them out, and it turned out to be just a huge pain in the ass. So instead, what I did was, I only did that for the first sheet. By the time I got to the second sheet, I took it out in my garage, put it on some sawhorses, measured out where the brick lines should be for the horizontal lines, and then used a chalk box to snap them. So what you need to do first is to put a yardstick on here and start measuring at approximately 3-inch intervals going all the way across. So line this up. You're going to want to do this for both sides. Make sure it's lined up. Then just go 3-inch intervals. You want to try to be pretty exact with these. They don't have to be spot on because we're going to make this look like old brick, so it doesn't have to be like completely accurate, but you want to be fairly accurate with it. Okay, So we have those lines marked going down the side. Now we'll do that on the other side and then use those as our guide marks to snap our chalk lines across this to make our horizontal lines. Okay, so we finished putting on the horizontal chalk lines in 3-inch intervals, and now we can go through and start carving out our horizontal lines with our heat knife. Now that you have your horizontal lines going across, go ahead and get your heat knife heated up and get ready to start carving them in. I choose to do this by hand, just going across there real quick because it kind of gives it a little bit of a wave to it. It makes it look like it was put together very shrewdly. It kind of gives it that old Victorian look. You can do this however you want to. There's a ton of different ways to do this. I've seen people use acetone and spray bottles to eat through the foam, Dremels, which in my opinion make a lot of mess. The heat knife, hot guns, things like that. There are all sorts of ways to do this. This is just the way we're doing it. Whichever works for you is what's best. So go ahead and decide however you want to do this and start cutting your lines. Now for this next step, you're going to want to make 8-inch marks going all the way across the top of your piece of foam. These are going to mark the vertical lines of your bricks. Now we're going to start at the top going in 8-inch intervals, and then on the second line we're going to divide that up by going, the first brick will be a 4-inch interval and then 8-inch intervals after that, because we're going to stagger these bricks through the whole thing. Once you get the shapes of your brick in the foam, you're going to want to go in and add some scarring if you're going to have a weathered brick look. The first thing that I do is I take my heat knife and I just start tapping all over around these bricks with the corners. It just starts burning off some edges, and then I'm going to show you how to use your heat gun to do the rest of it. Alright, so here I just have a small water bottle and everything, and all you're going to do really is just kind of spray all over this. Give it a good coat, and then let me come over here and grab my heat gun. Just heat gun. Turn it on high. And then you're just going to start holding this down to the brick. Try again. There we go. And you'll see as the gun heats up, it starts to add those pitting and that crevice, and actually starts to give us some really good detail. Now you can also go over these bricks with just the heat gun without adding the water, and that's going to melt some of the open cell foam and give you some detail and everything. But I think that the water really kind of helps to make it not look uniform and make it look like it's actually been out in the rain for a while, which is what we're looking for. So yeah, do that to the whole thing and you'll be ready for paint. Alright, so here we have the finished product of the bricks now that we've added all of our water and get all of our pitting. Kind of come around here and get you some of the detail. You see that the water kind of protects some of the areas of the brick, so the hot gun will kind of melt around or get the areas that are less covered in water, and really just kind of gives it a more natural look. If we pull out here so you can see the whole thing, you can see like the light really catches those little details and everything in there. Makes it look a bit more realistic. If you have any questions about the project or the video, feel free to email us at deadofnighthalloween@gmail.com. And please remember to subscribe to the Dead of Night Halloween production channel by clicking the link above.